Right. Seems like Bitcoin's bouncing up here, huh? Have we hit the bottom here at 6,500?
Yeah, I got some stuff to say on this. Just doing it for that analysis.
What's futures doing right here?
One sec, Alec. I'm gonna mute.
Oh, yep.
So I think I'm getting an echo. Uh, I can hear you, Chris. Alec, are you still there?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right.
Cool. Cool.
Gold's getting whacked. Um, yeah, so a lot to kind of talk about here. I know everybody's kind of anxious with the move last night, was pretty nuts.
Hmm.
We'll
Yeah.
let some people kind of
Yeah. Yeah, and give that a retweet too. So let's get some conversation going.
good point. All right, that's done. Well, let's just talk futures, I guess, first. We're actually having a dollar down move with gold down with a dollar down move here. But last night, oh, there's a dollar rallying now finally. um, so I got my futures up. Yeah, so I think the biggest story is this down trend line, and this is something that we talk about in our lives session. Is that I think the psychology of trading, one of the biggest things that's helpful for traders is to get away from this idea that you have to know what's going to happen next. And when you let go of that mentality that, hey, I don't need to know what's going to happen next, what you need to focus on is where is my edge or where's my risk. So your edge can come from whatever it is in your model or process that gives you, that you identify as a higher probability of something happening. And then all you have to do is figure out, hey, what's my risk? What am I willing to risk on this trade? Um, where am I wrong? And then manage the position. So when we looked at this down trend line that's been in place, the edge or the probability was that after the cycle was low down here at 5,800, 6,000, which we've held 4 times, when you rally back up and you get high within the cycle, the edge or the probability is that you're kind of running out of runway, and there's a high probability that we get another subsequent lower high. And so that's part of the reason why we were taking profits here on futures right before this big drop. We have no idea who's the seller, what's coming in, all the narrative and all the storytelling, it doesn't matter. It's just we're just trading what we know and what is happening, and that's we're high within the cycle. We're getting pretty high within the risk range. If you actually count out, I can look at the cash chart, but if you count out the 8.6 count, we actually failed pretty much right on 2 days before that on a daily level. So that was pretty helpful in us trying to take some off the table. And then now I don't want to add back until we get this daily cycle to come back down. So I'm going to be pretty patient. Because I know everybody's kind of anxious to say, well, where do we buy? Where do we buy? So that's the daily picture, the 4 hour. You can see that the 4 hours now has went bearish, right? We were in a bullish uptrend, higher highs. This is a higher high relative to here. Once we got above pi, we call that the northern hemisphere, and then these are higher lows. This is a higher high. So this was the uptrend, and then we broke that last night, and so you're clearly in an intermediate term downtrend again now. Within the big picture, basing big picture consolidation, or this is the support down here. So I'm going to actually kind of wait and let that daily cycle come down. I'll be a buyer back here towards 6,000 again. And then on the upside, this is a BCI in our model. So our traders kind of know what that is. It marks the middle of the move, which was pretty much textbook right there. But the near term now is also bearish, and there's just a couple opportunities to sell if we rally. So the prior support was right here, which we actually had a buy signal on the 4 hour. But that broke last night too. We went right through that like it wasn't even there. but this was pretty overdone. You can see the angle and distance from the 30. So if we can get a bounce back up towards the underside of 6,800, that's actually a good place for near-term short. So if some of you guys are trading on BitMEX, or if you're trading futures, I'm going to be a seller just for a near-term trade. So if you have longs, maybe you're actually long BTC or coins or against the rest of your portfolio, that's actually a good opportunity to sell. I don't even know if we're going to get that high. If from here, if we just drop to 6, then I'll be a buyer at 6. So that's kind of how I'm playing it. A little bit of a rant there. What are you guys thinking, Alec?
I don't know. We had the drop.
Chris?
We had this drop, and now all of a sudden Coinbase is exploring an ETF, and everyone has something else to grab to. So more of a fundamental look at it. But I guess Coinbase is now exploring a Bitcoin ETF with the help with BlackRock. I guess dropped in the last hour. So I don't know if that's the narrative for this little base here.
Yeah,
but it sure makes sense with how emotional.
Is that this right here?
I would assume so. Yeah, I mean, it's just with how emotional this market is right now.
Yeah,
it seems to everyone just clings to ETFs. I guess is the new dude. I don't know.
Yeah, that's been kind of the hope for a while. What's up, Em? What are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. The big thing that I was focused on yesterday is just before we saw the continued breakdown on BTC, we saw kind of the panic sell on anything that is not BTC. So the other majors as well as the altcoins in the space. I mean, we had that 500 point candle down, that within probably 6 to 12 hours of that, just massive sell-off in the altcoin space, particularly on Ethereum. And I know that we were talking about that earlier this morning, that if BTC continues this downward trend on Ethereum, we could see it going as low as 130, which is crazy. That's over a 90% retrace from its all-time high.
Yes. So I switched screens. So what Chris is saying, yeah, let's look at that on the weekly. It is insane.
And we were chatting about it yesterday, that everyone in the space for altcoins responds to actual weakness in BTC, whether we continue this downward trend, or perceived weakness. It's it's very emotional, doom and gloom kind of response to any sort of movement in BTC, which is why, even with how cheap essentially everything is in the market right now, I'm still waiting to get back in and really scoop up as much as I can at these just rock bottom prices, because until we see a nice actual confirmation and turnaround on BTC, well, there's no guarantee that these are the bottoms of these altcoins. And that's where I'm sitting, because I love my altcoins. I hold a lot of projects, and I'm just chomping at the bit, wanting to get back in and scoop up as much as I can. But it's so, there's a lot of uncertainty because of BTC.
Yeah. And it gets tough. The last quarter of the move is always the toughest, because people that are too early, especially in crypto, because these are big percentages. I mean, if you bought 350 and then you didn't take any risk off when we broke that low, I mean, we're almost a 50% down from there. So that last quarter of the move is tough, because people that are early, such a big percentage drop, still feel the pain, and it's really easy to sell into the low. What kind of concerns me is this BCI right here. So since we broke down from here, that's kind of right in the middle. So the way that concept works is that the bulls were only able to put together this one tiny little bullish candle, and then in that low gets taken out. And so that's a bullish candle ignored, and that's sometimes it's just a weird thing. They tend to be right in the middle of the move a lot of times. So that, to me, if you just on that rule, is to what Chris was saying, we're going back to maybe these lows at 130, right? That was the low from last July.
Yeah.
130. I mean, you've got the support here from September, which is pretty much we're right on it, relatively speaking. I mean, that's 200 level, 202, I think exactly on GDAX. So
I think the CME futures just closed too on Bitcoin, so that could be another reason for the kind of base we're getting right now. Maybe not, but
the September
I
contracts.
think so, didn't it?
I have to look right now, actually. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm out in October. Yeah, SEP is 13 more days.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's usually kind of in the middle of the month.
Which is interesting because that lines up with the cycles that we were talking about.
I guess we'll flip over to that real quick.
That lines up almost exactly 3 weeks into September.
3 weeks into September. The 8.6 count also on BTC. Let me show that real quick because I got it saved somewhere I was looking at today. Is it the daily? No, it's the weekly. You guys in YouTube land, what are you guys trading today? One of our guys was talking about the Zap coin. Chris, are you familiar with that one?
I am not.
What's his name? Zap? Nick Sapano. What's that guy's name?
I think and shorts are nearing all-time high again. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. It just seems like that's just the cycle we get of, like we keep talking about how emotional everyone is, and they see some red, and well, time to short, I guess, and everyone piles on, and we get that squeeze that I don't know how many times it's happened now in the last month alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nearing all-time highs again, so we're gonna get that squeeze.
What are you guys looking at to measure that? The sentiment or the positioning? I've got something on BitMEX. I think I saved at some point, some bookmark.
Yeah, that's usually the way to go.
We could take a look at that in a second. I was just going to say, Chris's point was that that convergence of the longer waves, I'll show you here in a second, lines up. We're actually 6 weeks into this count, but this cycle's done really good. I mean, from the highs to the low, we had an 8.6 count. This was actually a 4 count. That was midway through the cycle. And then we had a low 8 weeks later, midpoint of the cycle, another low, or the lower high, and then another low, the midpoint. And then this lower high came 8 weeks. And so here we are 6 weeks. We might have another 2 weeks down. I think it's going to be really important whether or not we hold here on this next cycle turn, which to Chris's point lines up with third week in September. And we've had that kind of identified. It's easier to see over here. Doug, yeah, Zap, right? It's trading at 1 cent. We were looking at that today. I was joking about there's pretty good support at 0.
Yeah, it's down from, I was just looking at it. I think it hit a high at 21 cents. So, 95% retrace. That's good.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. If you time it, if we do get a pretty good bottom here on BTC, then you're going to see some pretty amazing percent moves on some of these alts again. I mean, it doesn't take much to have 1,000% run from 1 cent. So here's that cyclical convergence, daily, weekly level, all right in here around September 18th.
I mean, looking at this, I'm just asked about, is the cycle going to break up or down? I mean, it seems like it's getting ready to cycle right back up after a drop that big.
You mean here?
Yeah.
I like the longer wave.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, that's 8.6 months off the high. So, sometimes it's 8 months, sometimes it's 9 months being at 8.6. It's just round up, it's all relative. So September still is a pretty high probability for the low. We thought maybe we were going to get it on this first initial rally, and then all we've done is make another lower high. So just like we talked about before, that the longer term pivot was 8,400 or 88, yeah, 84.88 exactly on this exchange. Well, now that we cycled up to it and then we moved away so to create a pivot, you actually have to move away from it, right? So now that we've moved away from the highs from 2 days ago, that's the new pivot. It's like 7,400. So that would be significant. We get some weekly closes above there, get above the 200 day, and then you still probably need to see a weekly close above 84.88. And I think that's going to cause all kinds of chasing. But we still have to talk about the downside. I mean, there's a chance that this floor breaks, which would be really ugly. That's kind of where you wish you had puts, because if you could buy, you could kind of take another stab here long and then buy like the 55,000 puts. And if something happens overnight or whatever, you don't just have to scramble to hit a bid. You're kind of hedged up. You could buy 5,500 puts, buy 5,000 puts.
It's interesting too, because we're watching it, crash. How many percentage points yesterday? Was it like 10 or 15%? And like Bitcoin prices in other countries, like for instance, Iran is at about 2,600, 26,000 right now, current Bitcoin price.
Really?
Yeah, it's hitting 26,000 USD equivalent. But
I remember when we were dinking around with the Zimbabwe stuff.
This is crazy.
I sold it in the highs at like 40,000 or something.
Yeah, too bad there's not like some like USD pegged. They're also trading, like some tether on those exchanges.
Yeah,
something to get out of it. But
I wonder where that's trading now. I'll probably have it saved somewhere. I don't remember the login. It's probably trading at. Let's see, it went from 10. It was probably 20. It's probably like trading at 16,000. What other coins do you guys want to look at, or what else do you guys want to hit on real quick?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can just go through a few, like see what Bitcoin Cash is doing, Litecoin, and then I mean, a lot of them are all just following Bitcoin's lead right now. I mean, when you get a market like this, that's just what's going to happen. As uninteresting as that is.
Okay. Just to hit that one question from Shadow Moon, the risk on the downside, big picture, it's actually a little bit easier to see on the monthly, believe it or not. Here's another BCI, guys. See that right in the middle? This stuff just kind of jumps out at me because I've been doing it for so long. There's a BCI kind of right in the middle of this move up. The first breakout is a little bit further up. But anyway, what you do is you can add on that. When that high gets taken out, you add. And then usually after BCI, the first candle, you keep holding it because it's usually there's more follow through. You don't want to take right after the first candle. There's usually more. The second or third candle you want to take after BCI. But the risk on the downside, Shadow Moon, is if we break here, I see it as the bands. I mean, this is basically, we look at that as our wall concept. We've retraced more than halfway. But if you can't hold there, you'll notice that a lot of these coins have returned to 1/10 of whatever they were trading at on the highs. So based on that, I mean, it's 2,500. We've got the bands right in that same area. I think that's where the risk is. I wouldn't kind of revisit that if it happens. Right? Because do you guys see anything else down here? There's this support from, that's 29.75. This low from October is 41.50. All this support is going to be really wishy-washy if that major low breaks.
Yeah, I mean, if we see Bitcoin breaking that 5,800 and moving down past that floor, I'm kind of at a point where I will probably back out of a lot of my core positions on alts that I've been keeping, just because at that point the real panic would set in the altcoin market, I think.
Yeah.
And in that case, it's just kind of playing defense, back out as far as I can, and then hit it hard once we do see what happens around that 3,000 mark on BTC. If we do retrace to that point on the bands, that's kind of.
No, I think it's smarter. You almost have to. I mean, it's like if that breaks, then like you're saying, Chris, it's kind of like the train's coming down the track, and it's just easier to step aside and see what happens. I mean, you could run the stops and then come right back up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's better to just cut your risk and, like Chris was saying, play defense than sit through another 50% pullback, because if you have another 50% pullback and then you need another 100% gain just to get back to where you were.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always easier just to step aside and wait and see.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just got to play it safe, but I mean, we've already seen a big shakeout of all, the worst of the worst, like BitConnect. But now, it might hit those stops and shake out the rest.
Yeah, that might be.
And just, I mean, look what happened the last time it was down. That it just it can reject so quickly. You just kind of got to prepare for it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all the people that always the rabble that says crypto's dead, it's all coming down, nothing's gonna come back up. That's just a really stupid position to take too.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. You're not admitting defeat by going to the sidelines.
No, and that's the thing. The trade isn't over just because you sell to take risk. I mean, if you don't want to realize a paper loss, that's goofy, because you're going to be sitting on much worse losses. I'd rather take the hit. Maybe you get a buyback just the same amount, if not more, at twice cheaper levels. I mean, you can buy a lot more at 3,000, 2,000 than you can at 5. So you're preserving your capital, and the trade's not over. You're going to be back in at some point. Would you rather be back in at 2,500 or down 50%? And then just back to break even at 5 or 6. So I agree with that. I mean, total defense and probably aggressive on the short side, intermediate and near term, like in futures, if that stuff starts to break. There'll be some opportunity to make some money intraday. I don't know, but we're just getting ahead of ourselves there. That's definitely where the risk is. You wanted to do BCH, Alec? The other majors?
Yeah, why not just run through everything real quick?
They changed it up on Bittrex. Is it BCC on Bittrex?
Yeah, it's BCC on Bittrex.
That's not right. Let me go back to GDEX, a little bit easier. I think they took it off or whatever. It's BCH. Still making long-term lower highs. Every bounce has been to the bands and failed here. Happened in June, twice in July, just happened again in September. So this isn't the first coin that I'm going to be buying. I don't really like buying lower lows, but there's a place to be trying to nibble smaller size contrarian into lower lows. That's Bitcoin Cash is not one that I would care to do that on. Maybe like Cardano. But I don't see any reason to get bullish toward back above 650 on that one. Litecoin, kind of the same thing. Ether is actually cheaper if you look on a relative value basis than Litecoin is. So yeah, there's support at 50. I guess you could try to take a long there, and where your risk is below 50, but it's still making lower highs. We'll see if we can put in maybe what we call phase 2 double bottom triple bottom, doesn't matter. The point is that first you got to stop going down and stop making lower lows. So maybe that happens at 50. You kind of watch that. I just not really in a hurry to buy. I mean, we made a lower high at 68. That's kind of defining this downtrend on the up. We were trading at what, 400 guys on the highs, so we were back to 1/10 pretty much. You know, almost to a 40 handle. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this stuff versus BTC is interesting. Doug, on that question about the euro, yeah, the difference between those that you're seeing is just all the FX risk, right? Brazil's currency is going to move a lot more than the euro. That's just what you're playing there. I thought Ether versus BTC was cheap here at 5 cents, and now we're going to go back to, 2% of the price of BTC. It's crazy low. What do you guys think?
Oh, I'd love to see it. It'd be great. That's just dirt cheap.
That's dirt
Especially
cheap.
when you compare to where it was relative to BTC. I mean, it's great.
And everybody was so bullish up here. This is the time to be more aggressive for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's good too from a fundamental standpoint too. It was getting a little bit of ahead of itself. I think it kind of shook it out a little bit. People had to really, really evaluate what has value and what doesn't, instead of just everything has value, obviously, because it's going up, right? So, it's like, all right, well, let's hold on here for a second. Let me take a closer look at these tokens. What's everything built upon? And I think it's healthy. As much as it hurts to see an account go down,
Yeah. Well, and then we talked about the other day the spread between. I like to lay out the BTC versus the dollar price, and then we knew this was going to converge. I actually thought Ether was going to catch up, and instead we had obviously Bitcoin collapse. So that's come back in quite a bit. And that was really sticking out on some of the smaller time frames. See if Ether's still looking really cheap. Hourly just a little better drop. Everything's kind of converged. So you can see here a couple of days ago, Ether was way down and everything else was hanging out. We had a pretty good pop in Litecoin. Monero popped pretty hard. Add a few more. Who's Rootstock? You guys know them?
Rootstock?
Yeah,
it's just a sidechain project for Bitcoin. Kind of to have the same functionality as Ethereum. It's been I don't know. Nick Zabos came up with that. I don't know in the 90s, I think, and it's kind of just been. And I think it's finally kind of being implemented in more of a fleshed out version on Bitcoin.
So is that competition for Ether?
In a way, I think they go about it two different ways, but yeah, in a way, they both have this smart contract Turing complete.
So what have we heard for the storytelling why Ether's down? We've heard ICOs puking, right? Is this one of those stories, one of the narratives also?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think it's just ICOs puking, to be honest.
I mean, that's definitely.
I think we just kind of saw that, like how you said, it was kind of shaking everything out. We were getting pretty low. Everyone kind of had that pop of a bubble in their heads at least, and then that kind of made everyone reevaluate.
Yeah.
Really reassess everything they were doing in that that up market.
Well, I mean, all the majors are really hanging out the lowest versus BTC. You still got Binance, Stellar, and 0x are performing the best. This is crazy how Ethereum Classic, that's this line that spiked up. What was that pump? Do you guys remember that, Chris? You probably
Coinbase, right?
Yeah.
Coinbase. Jeez.
Which was kind of really random. It was a random coin to list.
Random unless you're one of the insiders.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
I think that's a good. I still like that pairs trade though. Go buy Ethereum long and then short Ethereum Classic when it does shit like that, when it gets all high like that.
Or just in general.
Yeah. But when that spread widens out, you know what I mean? That's
yeah. No, I
you
get
could have been seller here, you could have been seller here. You'd be buying Ether now. I mean, I'd be if you were playing those two spreads.
Do they kind of trade inverse like that? I don't know. I haven't really taken a look at the relative
Well,
values.
they don't really trade inverse, but there's times where actually they kind of trade together. They're just like the rest of the market for the most part, but there's times where Ethereum Classic really sticks out and that spread widens. And if if you have the view that Ether is going to perform longer term, why not be long that? And then any pops for you looking for something on the short side of the market, I thought Ethereum Classic always made sense.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't do that much on like the short side. It'd be nice to see Ether futures come about. We kind of talked about that in our last episode. What other coins you guys have? We'll just do a few more and then probably got to hop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's everyone else trading? Yeah, EOS. Yeah, everyone's been watching EOS. I think people are kind of waiting for that pop back up.
I think that's one of our best ideas actually longer term. I know just from the actually just put that in this report we just going to put out today. This has had two really good long-term cycles up, and I think we're probably closer to another one. You can see this is the weekly, how low the weekly cycle is. Take off the watermark. I like a lot of things about this chart, but this was so. Here's your here's the ICO week. I'm assuming, right? I think that's the first week on Binance, and you based for 3 weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks really, and then it took off. You got above the ICO high. It kind of hung out there for 2 weeks, and then there's another BCI right in the middle. So this was your first leg up. Then you had a pretty good pullback that basically, if you look at that as one move, you held about halfway, right, of that move up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a swing line there that's really you're just following the prior candle's highs down. And then boom, right there, you take out the high. You buy that month, buy that candle, stop below the low. Real tight risk reward. And then because this is a higher low within the context of an uptrend, we don't really use targets, but the thinking is that you're going to move to a new high. So that's what you got. We made sales really good there. And EOS is one of those that didn't peak with January highs. It's one of the few coins that actually peaked in April, May.
Yeah, but didn't that correspond with their mainnet launch?
I think so.
And yeah, because that was right during all the EOS exchange to get the actual mainnet token off of the Ethereum token, which I still think that was one of the funniest ways to go about raising funds for EOS.
Yeah.
Launch an ERC20 token on your competitor. All right, great.
Oh, it worked though. They got quite the war chest.
Yeah.
But point being is that this is, I think, when we look at the relative value, this coin has been one of the strongest, and this is one of the few coins that's made higher highs since the January highs in the overall market in Bitcoin. So that says a lot. And we're still not back to these prior lows. I like that. You got the weekly cycle low. And then again, this was a swing line here. You could have bought that, and you got 1 week of follow through, and unfortunately, it just wasn't ready to go to new highs. But then you follow that same swing line pattern down. There's another BCI kind of right in the middle of the move. But you follow that swing line down, and then right here, this is a buy setup. So we were buying this week in this side of this week, and I still like it. As long as we're kind of above the lows here, I think this is a spot where you can get. This is one of the first coins to go to on the long side. And then what we need to see to really get the momentum back is we just need to get above the 8. So that's your pivot on the upside. If you do break below here, maybe you take half off and see what happens at these lows. But this is still very much long-term uptrend. Look at the daily level real quick. So there's your bounce to a lower high. You finally have a pi cycle. So we've just crossed this coin being around for more than 314 days. But can't get above the bands. It's just pretty much the same story for all the alts. Even Binance, I think, is back to making lower highs. The bands are negative there on EOS, negative on Binance.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to watch the support here around 8-9. Sure, those guys have been doing their buybacks. It seemed like they were doing their buybacks, their buy and burn a lot. I think they purchased around 12. Now they're probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of zero in on 8. But
all right. It's a pretty good wrap up. Yeah, if you guys we're gonna do a little bit longer stream tomorrow, same time. We're gonna try to make these pretty regularly at the same time, about 11 Eastern. I know you wanted to teach a few things tomorrow, right? A little more teaching than just analysis.
Yeah, I thought we'd do some of the topics that have come up in our live room. So we have a group, guys, that trade every day together. Those people pay for our coaching, so that they receive the model, which is 9 hours of training, and then we trade together twice a week. And we're trading a lot of Forex and day trading and lots of different stuff. But that in that group, there's some things that come up that I see that kind of happens over and over. So I thought we could do Friday, hit on like 3 topics. I'm going to go over 3 techniques that you can use. You can use in your trading next week. Maybe talk a little bit of the psychology of trading. But yeah, I think that's that out. What time are we going to do that? 11 Eastern tomorrow?
11 Eastern, yep. And, check this show description, give us a follow, stay up to date. And I mean, that's really about it.
Yeah. And then guys, it's free to come in our chat room too. Yeah. Got a lot more going on. If you want to follow us consistently throughout the day, and you can kind of get a hold of us in there.
Well, all right. Well, until next time, guys.
All right. Take care. Good luck out there.